Welcome back to the VariantCast. I am your host, Michael Ford, joined by not the regular racial draft co-host. Kia is currently on a mission somewhere. I think she's eradicating timelines. We talked last week about what um, powerful agent that she would be, and what her code name would be. And apparently, she's out there eradicating reality. I am a variant from Earth 917, and I am joined by a variant from what Earth, Carlos?
I'm from Earth 187 of an undercover cop.
Nice, nice. And seriously, before we dive into the shenanigans, we want to give on a somber note. We want to shout out friends of the podcast, Jeffrey Verege. He's currently going through medical concern. Our thoughts go out. We will link his GoFundMe. His family, could use your thoughts and prayers right now as he goes through his challenges. But that is an awkward transition into what was an incredible episode of television of the Loki Disney Plus series, in which what was the title of the episode? Lamentis, episode 3. And I'm not going to read a synopsis. I'm just going to sort of jump right in. I mean, we start out in San Junipero, for of all places, as Loki, or Sylvie, formerly Loki, does a little bit of seduction on who we understand to be Agent C20, or is it C20 or C15? I think it's C20.
I think it's C20.
Yeah.
It's Mac 10. That's
It's I know there's a is it B15 and C20?
I
I
believe that's
think,
correct.
yeah. So C20, Sasha Lane, aka Jessica Hyde from Utopia.
How did I just put together that her last name on that show is Hyde? Oh, that's right there. Jeez, Carlos, come on.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, she continues to uh do what she does in terms of I think she's going to be a rising star in Hollywood, and we would like to believe that she's going to continue to have a big role in the show. We can jump right into the big revelation that kind of casts a different light on what we saw at the end of last week's episode. As I mentioned in the group, one of the things that she was kind of mumbling to herself was, she mentioned two main things that she was mumbling to herself, in addition to the revelation that she'd given away how to find the timekeepers. The
Right.
first thing that she was saying was, "It's all real. It's all real." And we now know what's real: her memories of her life before she worked for the TVA.
Yeah, that's haunting now. Like that's
For sure,
yeah.
it puts a whole different pall on things, knowing it kind of makes sense from a personnel management standpoint, that rather than create brand new beings and then obliterate variants, that there's some sort of like work release type deal where it's like, well, I mean, you broke the timeline. We had to eradicate everyone else, but if you'd like, well, I say if you'd like, but they don't really have a choice. I doubt it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I made the point that most people would choose to not be eradicated,
Yeah, absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
instead have their personality eradicated and replaced with a whole new personality, one which only lives for the TVA. And I
I wonder
guess,
how that works. If that's like some sort of like re-education, or if it really is just like you've been doing this for so long you don't remember. Because for instance, like in this episode, Sylvie says that she had to reach back from a memory from hundreds of years ago,
sure.
but it was like 1990. Like it's
Well, no,
not
but
hundreds
here,
of years
right? But
ago.
remember, like we talked about this as well. The how time works in the TVA is a totally different plane than
Sure.
how time works on the main timeline.
So that's what I'm saying. If
So
if
right, so
if if
relative to her, she's been doing this for 100 years, but she, as we heard in another conversation, the people in the TVA think that they were created for one purpose and one purpose only.
yeah. I mean,
So
yeah, yeah,
presumably what they did is that they, we know that they didn't completely erase their memories because otherwise they wouldn't have been able to access the memories from C20. So they're buried deep in their subconscious, and it's been rewritten as all they do is their predetermined TVA purpose, which
sure,
of course raises that question about the jet skis. I mean, a
exactly.
lot of people were asking, whether how the jet skis would play in later with Agent Mobius. I would have to argue that it's heavily implied that whatever he did before he became a TVA agent, it probably involved jet skis. Maybe he was
Yeah, if he was like a jet ski dealer,
I was gonna say maybe he's on the beach.
yeah.
He's a beach bum, and he did something on a jet ski. Or my other suggestion, my other possibility is that he was supposed to do something quote unquote responsible, but he went jet skiing instead.
Ah,
Going jet skiing instead is what turned him into a variant. We have been joined by Randy. Randy, what's up? Which variant are you?
I am Randy Smith of Earth 1964.
Oh, we shall overcome. Um, So yeah, we just got into it. We were talking about the revelation that TVA agents had lives before they became TVA agents, and what
Mhm.
the implications of that might be. We talked about Hunter C20 and her life in San Junipero. Clearly, um, that's all I could think about. I was like, did she used to hook up with Loki? um, because the chemistry was off the charts. Speaking of chemistry, the chemistry between Sylvie and our Loki was kind of. I was feeling. Was it just me, or was anybody else feeling that chemistry?
Absolutely just you.
What?
what? No, I
No,
was.
I felt chemistry, but I feel like Michael is kind of leaning in a little bit a different direction as to what that chemistry means.
I was feeling the vibe. Carlos, can you break the tie?
I feel like they were vibing each other for sure. And if there's
Okay.
one character who's going to fall in love with a version of themselves, it's Loki.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like if you had to pick one character in the entire MCU to hook up with him or herself.
I mean, yes, if you phrase it that way, but at what point would we ever normally encounter such a question?
I mean, listen, if they were to kiss, I would not be shocked and appalled.
No.
But we should, now's a good time as any to talk about you know, the rainbow elephant in the room. I mean, it's still June, right? It's still Pride Month, so we got a double revelation. We got the fact that Sylvie was a Loki at one point, but is now Sylvie. That is her name, and we will not be dead naming her on this show.
Right.
Sylvie, and also in a conversation about their particular proclivities, a PG-13 conversation, as tends to happen on a Disney project. Was lightly alluded to the fact that there was some dabbling with both male and female characters in the sexual.
Honestly, I'm surprised it was brought up because it didn't add anything to the story. So that just means they just brought it up, which I mean is
Well,
great, but because
I
it didn't add anything to the plot, I'm
mhm,
saying like I
right.
was just surprised
I
because
mean,
it's
if
Disney.
true, but I guess my logic is that when you're already introducing the fact that your main character is presenting in a different gender,
Right.
there it does open the door to, hey, maybe we should uh ask questions about what their proclivities are in other respects, because I don't think Loki's ever shared any kind of romantic style scene. If anything, he seemed kind of disdainful of Thor's romantic um dalliances.
Right.
So like it would have been disappointing if Loki were like, actually, I'm a virgin. And I'll be like, oh, like, oh, poor Loki. We got to get him. We got to get Loki laid.
I would add that onto like the mile-long list of his various lies. I don't for a minute.
Right. Listen, again, if you had to pick one character that would use his ability to project different versions of himself and get himself off, Loki would be candidate number one. Doctor Strange might be candidate number two. I feel like, you know, I mean, can't trust him with all those magics.
I 100% feel like even if like I'm very happy that they came forthright with it and without really much prompting. Like it didn't like Carlos said, it wasn't like plot relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it wasn't like he was being interrogated. It was like, tell us all of the women you've been with, and he's like, there's men too. Like, nothing ridiculous.
I'm happy that they kind of did it that way, just making it so casual, and because it's Tom Hiddleston. Like he looks magically delicious. We already know he gets up to. But like I would find it very hard to believe. It's like, yeah, no.
Wait. Can we quickly pause to the fact that we do not have a sponsorship from Loki Charms, but Loki Charms is a product that you can find on probably eBay now for like $500. But that is a thing. So respect to Randy for the shout out. I don't know if this is SpawnCon on your end, but, holler at us.
I 100% endorse Loki and all of his charms. So I'm fine with that. I'm very happy that they brought it up and didn't try to make it like it had to be. Because we always get this conversation like anytime they introduce representation of any kind that is not what we're used to demographically. They're like, oh, well, it has to be organic, and we have to try to, find a reason for it to exist. It's like, no, it's part of the
really
story.
don't. It can be matter of fact. It can really be matter of fact. Like, so I agree with that. I mean, I guess we should backtrack a little bit into a little bit more of the plot.
Wait, Tony Stark would most definitely use barf to project younger versions of himself to get himself off.
See, I feel like Tony Stark would like create barf orgies.
Yes, of mostly Tony Starks. Tony Starks.
Nice. It feels good. But I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't see too much of the TVA in terms of dealing with the crisis. However, I continue to be impressed by Renslayer because she knew exactly where the drama was at. When she went ahead and strapped up at the end of the last episode, she was like, this looks like a diversion. I'm going right to the golden elevator and I am shutting the party down. And we didn't get a chance to see her fight. I guess we'll have to wait for another episode, but she definitely, hit that, oh, you're trying to use Loki as a hostage? I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, right. What did you think was going to happen there?
Like I always love when a hostage situation goes wrong. It's like, but
outside of a fictional context, that sounds really dark.
Sorry. Thanks for the clarification, Randy. But yeah, so apparently Lamentis 1 is a location from the comic books.
Oh,
did you guys know this?
No, but I should have figured that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and Google it now, but yeah, someone posted a panel, and I'm gonna guess that happened in. Yeah, I'm gonna guess that happened in the books too, where the moon got destroyed.
Randy, are you going to draft Lamentis 1 next season?
Don't tempt me.
Oh man, 2077 Lamentis 1.
I mean, like high key, if I had actually like if the drafting was going on right now, I might be tempted to like the Living Planet because he has a thing going on right now.
Oh right, yeah.
Well, I mean, I just read this issue, so I already know what happened to Ego. Ego's no more so far. Sorry, spoilers, guys.
Mm.
Yes. Oh, so it's Lamentis Outworld. It's at the edge of Kree space.
Oh,
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I don't remember Lamentis being one of the locations that were time bombed at the end of the last episode.
no.
I still want to know what a time bomb does to a healthy timeline. Do you guys have any thoughts? So, you know,
So my theory on this, which I told you we would save for the pod, is you were talking last week about how when they come in and they use their retcon bombs, they wipe out trillions, which is what I initially believed.
mhm.
You know, you're destroying an entire potential universe. But just from hearing the dialogue, especially in episode 2, it seems that their theory of branch timelines is like dropping a stone in the water and the ripples out.
Mhm.
And basically, these time bombs are like reversing the ripples, and anything that wasn't touched by the ripple doesn't
Mhm.
it doesn't get erased. It didn't
Right.
happen. So, you know, if
But
I drop a
mhm.
stone in Lake Michigan, nothing's happening in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah.
So,
So I have two potential retorts to that. The first retort is that that's just not how matter works.
no,
You know,
no, it's not.
like
Neither that's also not how
it's
time
either
works.
right, but I'm saying, well, no, I'm just saying it's either a brand new timeline everywhere in the universe or it's not. You know, like because think about it, if you take out one part of it, the
Sure.
rest of the universe still has a reality, you know?
Mhm.
But there is a possibility that when that red line thing that they're talking about is when the rest of the universe fills in.
Right.
You know, so that point up to the red line, it is just localized. And then
Mhm.
once it crosses the red line point, then it fills in the whole rest of the universe. So
Right.
so theoretically, it could just be localized and able to be cauterized in that, you know, place that the variation has happened. And if you wipe it out, if you catch it soon enough, it hasn't created enough new life outside of that sphere to need to be eradicated.
And
That
that's
reminds
why
me.
the hiding out in apocalypses works, because no
Yes.
matter what you do, the greater timeline, the ripples are not going to get past the apocalypse. So there's nothing to be. There's
Yeah.
no variance.
I mean, that still kind of feels weird to me because even if there's no variance, we have technology. Like we can, if an apocalypse happens, this isn't if a tree falls and no one's there to see it scenario. You know, we know that an apocalypse happens. You know, we should be able to, like, if think about it, if you have a family member who calls you up and goes, you know, oh, I'm dying, you know, the world tidal wave is wiping away my home. I just wanted to tell you, oh, I love you, you know, like Sokovia, like the thing that happened to
Sure.
to Zemo. Like theoretically, Sokovia could be one of those apocalypses, right? Like there could be, you could imagine a scenario where everyone in Sokovia dies,
Right.
but someone left a voicemail for someone who was outside of Sokovia to hear. And if things played out slightly differently, then that's still a ripple. That's still a possibility of time being somewhat affected by, you know, even if everyone died, if someone died at a different time in a different way, like that's a variance that could be detected. So it's not, to me, it's not necessary. It's not that every apocalypse doesn't have effects beyond that local place that the apocalypse happened. You know, but I get,
Sure.
I mean, you
Yeah.
know, I get how in a lot of situations that might be the case, especially if it's sudden.
Right.
You know, if people don't have enough time to make preparations and arrangements.
Right.
So, but that I'm still a little I just, like I said last week, I just wish they would call it something other than apocalypse, because when I think apocalypse, I think, total and wide ranging destruction, not, you know, oh, it feels over dramatic. It's like, my girl broke up with me. It was an apocalypse of my heart.
Hey, I'm just like really proud of comic book Twitter for not saying like apocalypse confirmed. Like
Oh
they said
man,
apocalypse.
that's what the title of the episode should have been last week. Apocalypse. Apocalypse confirmed. Well, speaking of apocalypses, what did you guys think of the Lamentis apocalypse?
Obviously the action of it was very intense.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of sucks that it took that much danger for Loki to finally like be able to showcase his magic.
True.
Like it was and it wasn't like little blasts of this and that and the other. It was like, boom, stop the building from falling and reversing it. It's like it's very
I know. I mean, that was a high level of magic / telekinesis.
That was new.
That was
very new. Exactly.
He's never done that.
That was my Okoye moment. I was like, where were you the whole time? You can do all of that stuff.
I mean, technically, he was on the side of the evil. So I mean, he was never had a chance to do it to save people. But now, do you guys watch Snowpiercer at all?
I haven't.
Or have you seen the movie Snowpiercer?
No, I am familiar with the imagery though, and I was like, "Are we just doing a Snowpiercer? Is that what's happening here?"
Because I was like, "There's a train. People are trying to survive the apocalypse on the train. All I needed was like different sections for different levels of wealth." And
what I thought was funny is like I had just read some article, some content clickbait article about Loki and how it's maybe similar to Snowpiercer in terms of like, TVA. Yeah. And then this episode dropped and I was like, really? Like, wow. Maybe that was intentional. Like maybe it was very intentional. And maybe it speaks to the identity
Zeitgeist
of the timekeepers. And,
okay. Because I was going to say that so there was two things. So I think that fascism is just in the zeitgeist a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You wonder why.
Those of you who are listening to this in 2057, in the early 2020s, we went through some things.
Those of you who are listening to this in 2057, like congratulations on finding this pirated radio broadcast.
Yeah, we come from a time when fascism was a thing that people actually fought against.
Nice.
We are dark-skinned people. We used to exist. It was great.
Again, I choose to believe that we're in the timeline where the non-dark-skinned people are a myth. But anyway, like so the fascism aspect is in the zeitgeist a little bit. So there's that piece of the Snowpiercer show, but there's also this thing, and I apologize for anyone who's never seen the television show Snowpiercer, but there's an authority figure who everyone worships kind of in a godly way, but it turns out that the person who speaks for said authority figure has actually usurped the role and is now in addition to her role as the spokesperson for the authority figure is actually the authority figure.
I feel sorry to cut in,
okay.
but I feel like the fact that it is like that kind of a Snowpiercer motif in this episode and then on top of that, for him to be like trapped in the apocalypse and all this other stuff, it sort of feels like I guess a continuation of kind of the arc of like you formerly wanted to be like this guy who was in power and all this other stuff, and now you're kind of getting a taste of like now see how the little guys feel. The people that you were like, going to subvert, or that you wanted to like rule over everything. Now you get to kind of be part of the endangered crowd, and you get to
Mm-hmm.
feel like that kind of helplessness and all of it.
Right. Now, actually did have some thoughts about what their plan was going to be. I was wondering if their main plan was to create survivors in order to subvert the apocalypse, so that the TVA would have to show up as a way of getting out of their situation, because they need a plan, right? They need to get out of Dodge. I mean, if we're not assuming Deus Ex Machina, and let's face it, Deus Ex Machina is very on the table.
There is no other way.
There are two deuses, so
Right.
Well, I mean, I would say there's three deuses, but I think that one possibility is that at the last second, Mobius will show up and snatch them up. I think
jet ski. Come on, guys, get on.
Nice. Another possibility, which I broached, which, as someone who's oddly enough a big fan of timey-wimey shenanigans, a third Loki shows up to rescue the both of them, because somewhere along the line they created a failsafe because of paradoxes, and that third Loki was like, in case of emergency, break glass, and the emergency happened, and they're like, oh, I guess I have to rescue two other versions of me.
Well, it's Kid Loki, obviously, from the alternate future where he and Sylvie have a child together.
So actually, let's drill down on that, so to speak. So I'm still working under the assumption that Sylvie was grew up as a boy, grew into a man, and then later became Sylvie.
Okay.
From based on variant rules, there had to be enough. She had to grow up enough like our Loki,
right,
for her life to not be basically forfeit immediately.
Yeah, the moment that she strays from the timeline cannot be the moment she's born a girl.
Yeah.
Right?
Now I have an additional theory that she became a variant, and then they put her in the TVA.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And when I watched it the first time, I didn't have that theory, but when I watched it the second time, I definitely have that theory. The way that she asks Loki about his history, she's not asking it from the perspective of, well, my history is different than yours. She says very clearly, it's been so long, I don't remember. And that's very comparable to what happened, with C15. Wait, C15 or C20? I'm sorry. C20, I think. It's very similar. I think that her past was buried under a lot of TVA propaganda. I think that's one of the reasons that she knows how the TVA works and their tactics. I think that she became a variant at some point. I think that maybe she became Sylvie upon her reprogramming, and now she's trying to, like, she spent the last however long trying to recover her personality as an individual. And I think that that's might be why she wants to take down the TVA, so that she can free everyone from their mind control.
I think that's a perfectly valid theory, that she was a hunter, and then kind of whatever, maybe the wrong mission, and just kind of like, wait a second, I know this place, hold on. And then it started coming back to her. And yeah, I think she outright calls them fascists in this episode.
Which, I mean, we should have been calling them fascists from the beginning.
Cards are on the table now. I think it's fairly clear that the TVA as a bureaucracy is evil, even if the people in it
don't know what the
exactly
overall plan is.
Are unknowing of the full extent that they're victims. Even
I mean,
so,
that's always the way, isn't it? You know, the people who.
I mean,
who
I
stand
definitely.
trial-
Sorry.
No, I was
Go
just
ahead,
saying.
Randy.
Who the people who stand trial at Nuremberg, it's just like we're just following orders. It's like, yeah, but you still had the evil that was kind of behind it. So
Yeah, I mean,
yes,
I
but
was
like,
always.
This is more like we were just following orders, and I have no idea who I am or where I come from, or like I didn't. It's actually there is a great there's a Black Mirror episode about this where like where the soldiers who are fighting the monsters, like,
and they can only see the monsters.
They only see them as monsters, and then it turns out they're not monsters, they're humans. But there's like, I thought I was fighting monsters that were invading my planet. Like, you didn't know, like there was no way for you to make a moral decision because you literally you didn't have the tools.
Now here's why they're still a little bit morally complicit though. The mission itself is a mission of eradication. Like,
well, and then at that point you have to kind of ask the question of like, to what degree were their minds altered? Like, I could see if it was like, okay, well, we just erased maybe your up to last year or whatever, then that would be a difference. But like, if you kind of wiped out everything and just started from the bottom up,
right? But that's what I'm saying. Like, if they had, if there was like a lie, right? Because we're all on the same page that the way that they understand, not just the way we understand, but the way that they understand these time charges to work is that they wipe everything out. Whether it's wipe everything out in a small space or wipe everything out universe wide, they're still wiping out lives that, for whatever reason, the TVA has determined aren't worth existing.
Right.
And that's what they do every day, all day. They make a decision. These people's lives don't matter, and therefore they have to go. That, now granted, you can create any number of scenarios from a utilitarian perspective why it's better to sacrifice some to save the many. You could say that if this new universe gets created, then this violates. I mean, this is a time runs out scenario, right? Randy, did you read Time Runs Out?
I did not. I heard like bits and pieces of things that happened.
Both of you guys need to get acquainted with the Time Runs Out scenario. So I mean, but I'm going to reiterate, if it's basically one universe lives or both universes die, you can imagine a scenario where it's like, well, I guess I have to kill a universe because the alternative is that we all die. If they're presented with that as the rationale for the TVA, that to save all of existence, they have to keep wiping out potential universes, then it's a little bit more acceptable from a moral perspective than if it's completely arbitrary. That we just think that it's better if there was one universe. That.
I mean, if we're thinking about it, it's almost as though like you get. I'm just like imagining if you get like a cabal of like comic fans in one room, and they all get to like decide what is canon and what is not canon, like who has relationships with who and who's friends with who, and like what, like, get rid of this one story. I feel like that. I mean, that
is definitely the subtext of this show, right? This is why Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This is why Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is no longer canon, because the TVA decreed that it was not.
And the moral of the show is going to be, it's all canon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's just kind of entertaining to think of it that way, because it's horrifying. Like, I mean, you get this dang it! What was the rest of my point? Anyway,
sorry about that. No, I mean, here's the thing: the timekeepers are just going to be like comic book guy from Twitter. I mean, comic book guy from The Simpsons being like, "It's not canon. No, it's got to go."
My Captain America wouldn't have said that.
Exactly.
I mean, if I can also push back on the idea that, like, you know, yes, their job necessarily involves eradication, but do you know who else's job necessarily involves eradication? Oncologists. Like
True.
their job is to eradicate cells that have gone awry in order to preserve
The body, right?
And that's exactly, I think, how these TVA agents look at it. Like, we're killing the cancerous cells.
Right, but the thing is, as it was explained to us in the orientation video, it's more seen as it's more seen as something that is preventing a possible destruction more so than definite destruction. You know, so it's not quite like the cancer thing. It's kind of like, let's go ahead and like lop off this body part because of the possibility that it will be cancerous.
Minority Report.
Sort of, you know. It's like, oh, you've got a bump, you know, that we're not gonna run a test on whether that bump is benign or you know, malignant. We're just gonna go ahead and chop off that part of your body, you know. Like I do get that there's just a slight minor distinction. Like all it would take is another line of dialogue where they say that this is what their understanding is. Right. And again, the fact that it's said, you know, we talked about this in another episode, the fact that it's kind of couched in a spiritual, religious thing rather than a scientific thing. The fact that they're just saying this is the sacred timeline and it's as been decreed by the timekeepers, rather than two universes aren't capable of coexisting without putting the other one in peril. Right. You know, I think that if it was explained that way, we would be a lot more inclined to favor the TVA.
Sure.
But it really does seem arbitrary. It really does seem like they're picking and choosing which timelines matter and which timelines don't.
Especially if they don't know the end, which has also come up on the series. Where what are the timekeepers doing? Well, they're making sure the end works out. Well, then,
but we're the ones that are really in the dark, though. I mean, that's like the tool that the, you know, assuming that the timekeepers exist. That's kind of like been the system that we're seeing is at play here. Like there's gaps of like who is allowed to know what,
but where I would slightly push back is that if we don't know when the end of time is, you know, history can be mapped out 1,000,000 years in the future, and that still not be the end of time.
Right.
You know, like we don't know how far their mapping goes of what the you know, sacred timeline is. If the sacred timeline only goes to, you know, 2022, then we're like, oh well, I mean, everything, we're right up against it, you know. But if we at least know it goes up to 2077, right? Like, but let's assume that the sacred timeline goes far into the future, and they're just they can spend all their time making corrections from the beginning of time up to the year 5000 and still not feel like it's all worked out. So I understand that, you know, you do what you can do. If you believe that their mission, if you're in the TVA and you believe that their mission is a just mission, as long as you've got enough work to keep you busy of pruning timelines that are rogue timelines that could potentially put the entire multiverse in peril, it's not your problem. And if you're not aging, right? If you're not aging, you're not getting old. If you assume that you're going to do this until your job becomes obsolete, then every day is a new day. Every mission is a new mission.
Right.
And and as long as when the day finally comes that you've finished, when the day finally comes that like the timekeepers have mapped it all out and you've pruned all the variants. Now the real question is, why do you think that there's ever going to come a time where you're not going to be pruning variants? Like that feels to me like the better question to ask. When will you ever eradicate free will?
Is there an actual end?
Well, not even is there an end, but will there ever come a time when people will make different choices? Where people will stop making different choices is what I mean.
I mean, honestly, you couldn't really even argue that there would come such a time because it is such a vastly like just a immensely vast and difficult scale to comprehend. Like we don't even really know the nature of time anyway. We assume that
True.
time is like subjective. So for all we know, there might be like a particle out there in the future somewhere, chronoton, whatever. We discovered that it's an actual like measure of temporal energy. So I mean, it's just very I don't know. It hurts my head to consider the possibility that like even a bureaucracy so huge like that. And this is coming from somebody who is I consider myself a person of faith, but it's difficult to even comprehend the scale of like what exactly the end is, let alone that I could myself determine that, oh, it's a good end for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, to me, like going back to the last episode, to me, the sort of like logical, proper answer is that it's like, no, this is actually what my life is. Like, I'm going to be doing this for forever.
Yeah.
That there will always be people making different choices than what their timeline laid out for them. And then I will always be popping in to correct that.
I mean, it's essentially like the equivalent of forever for a human life. It's like, oh well, I've been working for most of my life, or I've been doing whatever for most of my. I mean, it just it's on a cosmic scale because they live for an indeterminate amount of time.
Right, but remember, we're not just talking about Earth. So like Earth
Right.
has like 7 billion people, but you got to think about every other planet in the entire universe that has living things that can make choices. Because we're human, so we're human centric, but it's not like other sentient beings can't make decisions that will alter the course of a timeline.
Yeah.
Like there could be some like deer one day who just
Right.
decides like, oh, I'm just gonna eat this graze here rather than somewhere else, and then the TVA shows up and it's like variant.
Exactly.
And then that deer gets recruited into the TVA. Like, wouldn't it be weird if that guy who didn't know what a fish was an actual fish?
I mean, I thought like I think it's the scale of the TVA is being betrayed by how it's being portrayed, because we were shown this vast city that's like endless city, and that they're talking about the timeline not just on Earth but across the entire universe at all times, but all of the agents appear to be human. There isn't like a Skrull agent, although we did see
we did see a Skrull.
We see one, there are more aliens in Guardians of the Galaxy, when they they pop into a random spot, you're going to see random extras with makeup on or whatever.
So sorry to cut you off, but what would you prefer? Would you prefer that there actually be other divisions of the TVA that deal with other species that we just haven't been seeing?
I would prefer some acknowledgement of it, period. Like, yes, if that's the way it is, I'm fine with that. Like, I don't need Owen Wilson's partner to be Kree. Like, that's I don't need that. But
just an acknowledgement that's a thing, right? Because like we did talk about this, because like while I agree that the mechanics of the storytelling make it seem like Renslayer is the only judge, logically she shouldn't be the only judge.
Of course not.
Couldn't be.
Right. She couldn't be.
But then, you know, in 3 episodes, they can't cut across and show every single other judge. We have to figure out what the scale of the story is.
Especially if she's just gotten promoted, right? Because Mobius is like, oh, you know, he's like not surprised to see her up there, but it's like, you look good up there, as if that's a new development.
Oh, you see, I didn't take it as that. I took it more as he was just like, you know, sucking up a little bit, you know, but not that she had been you know, that acknowledged that she had been promoted, but not that she had been just promoted, because then who was judging before her?
Well, that's what I'm saying. There have to be other judges, but like the way you would watch it, the way you watch this, it's like, no, there are pretty much only like 6 real hunters and then a bunch of red shirts and a judge.
Well, you see, I just kind of did the math on the hunter thing, where it was just like, all right, so there's a B15 and a C20, right? So you got to think that there's like the entire alphabet of hunters, you know, with numbers going up to at least 20 of each hunter in the alphabet, you know, and then each hunter probably has like judges affiliate, you know, like based on like how quickly the trials went, you know, I was like, you can't just have one judge for every potential variant, you know.
I am choosing to believe the Doctor Who logic that we kind of get like a perception filter. And like you can kind of assume that there are other species and stuff, but we kind of see what is, you know, most comfortable and hear what's most pleasing, what's most, you know, that we can kind of comprehend.
See, I was thinking more along the lines of like, you know, sectors. So
yeah, I mean that too, but I'm saying like there's still, even within a given sector, like if you say that a Green Lantern, crossing over to DC, if a Green Lantern is like the Green Lantern of whatever sector, that still is like a huge swath of space.
True.
You know, so
yeah. I was thinking like the movie that I kept coming back to is Men in Black. Okay. Just remind this, you know, it's a bureaucracy, but it's dealing with the supernatural or the extraterrestrial or what have you. And when the first time you know, Will Smith walks into the main Men in Black headquarters, there are aliens everywhere. Like they're just everywhere. And when you see Loki in the first episode get sucked into the whole bureaucracy of it, it's like him and always like one other guy in the waiting room. If this is supposed to be like the DMV or like court, there should be, you know, you should be able to not see the floor. It should just be extras, you know, and CGI extras, of course, but like
which is why it would only make sense if there were more offices like the one that he was in.
Right.
You know, because
but also
then
like he's not human. He's not even Asgardian, but like, so there should be, you know, it's not even that like he's in the Earth sector. There should just be,
but the variation did happen on Earth.
Sure. Yes.
You know, so I would be fine if it was like, yeah, we deal with variants on Earth. You know, someone else deals with variants, you know, somewhere else. But we're kind of unsure. Well, we know based on Lamentis that they deal with variants outside of Earth.
And you know from the time bomb, like
from the time bomb, they deal with variants.
Although again, most of the locations on the time bomb are on Earth. It is very Earth centric.
There was a Vormir one.
Yeah, there are a few that like are references to other, you know, to places that have occurred. But I mean, there are probably 3 screens, and I think there's probably 4 locations that are not Earth. So yeah, it's a little too Earth centric. Like the scope is being betrayed by the show.
And I am hoping that
it promises.
Yeah, I'm hoping that, you know, at this point we're halfway through the show. 3 episodes out of 6. Hopefully we can figure out one way or the other, you know, how far the scope is. Whether it means that apparently the TVA is just super Earth focused, or there are other TVA factions that are experiencing similar things. I think it's highly likely that this next episode is going to be TVA centric. I think especially this is a thing that Marvel has done, in other respects. I know people are going to be mad at it when and if it happens. We're probably going to get the next episode, which is these last 12 hours from the TVA's perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I was, when people, whatever reaction people have had today for this episode, it's like, you didn't see this coming. Like you meet the new character who is presumably your villain, and next week the episode is going to be, and here's the story from their perspective. Honestly, I was surprised Loki was in it. I was expecting just Sylvie's story, and then getting up to the rocks cart, and then maybe 5 minutes after that. So, I mean, it's kind of a formula at this point for their series. Like, this is the episode where Monica Rambeau is going to show us everything that, you know.
I think that was episode 4, though. I think that was episode 4 of WandaVision.
How many episodes did WandaVision have?
WandaVision had 8, I believe.
So there you go. So so in a 6-episode series, you're going to get that in episode 3.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think we still got a little bit of Sylvie. We got enough to know that we kind of like her.
Sure.
Like we don't know still what her overall agenda is, but we're already staked in that we don't want her to die.
And quite frankly, I feel like she's going to be our enchantress in movies going forward.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is it for her, honestly. If she dies in service of creating the multiverse, which, I mean, obviously you can bring her back at any point.
Yeah.
If this Sylvie dies, like whatever, like I can see it.
I'm still not sure. I mean, I think that there's a whole bunch of different possibilities as to what this show could be. I mean, a lot of people have talked about the idea of there being a season 2 of Loki. If there is going to be a season 2, then I think she stays.
The reason why I say what I say is because, first of all, her power is obviously referred to as enchanting people, and then on top of that, she's named Sylvie after she shares a name with a character who becomes the Enchantress in comics. And she becomes
but this is the MCU. They were constantly like using what we know about the comics as a misdirect.
Yeah, that's true.
But what I would say in your defense is that at like the classical Enchantress as we know it from the comics is a little more problematic today than maybe 10 years ago.
Yes, it is.
As someone who's, kind of a fan of the Enchantress, hot Enchantress, as it were. Not to say that the actress who's playing Sylvie isn't attractive, but, like when I think of the Enchantress, I think of
cheesecake.
Yes, very much, very much. I would be sad if we didn't get that kind of Enchantress at any point, but that's just me. I fully acknowledge that from a more from a less problematic perspective, having the Enchantress be like a Loki variant is probably safer. You're not going to get canceled for that. But we'll table that aspect. I think the actress, so what's her, Sophia DiMartino, I think she's doing a masterful job. And I don't want her to go away. So
no, nor do I.
I'm fine with there being both a Loki and a Sylvie. Both sort of sowing chaos, but here's the thing. I do think that one way or another, Sylvie's going to be restored to a life, whether it's in death or whether it's happy ending for her. I think she's going to ultimately get what she wants, which is to live a life as a non-variant.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Sure. I also think, getting back to like the comic books of it all, Marvel, the MCU has this way of like taking to use like a music metaphor, like we're going to take the title of this song, but we're playing completely different notes that kind of remind you of this song.
It's like a remix. It's a remix.
Yeah. Basically, it's a remix. So, like for instance, Ravonna. I know people are like, well, that's Kangs. That's Kangs squeeze. Not necessarily in this really? Iteration. That might be Kang. You know, that might be a version of Kang. It could be any number of things. It could have nothing to do with Kang. Just because you know they're throwing the name out at you to get you to do the research, to do the deep dive.
Right.
And then you go, okay, I know where this is going. And then you don't. You have no idea where it's going.
Yeah. And in fact, I would say more often than not, the MCU subverts what we know about the comics in order to misdirect us.
Right.
Yeah.
It didn't start off that way, I would say. Like the original MCU movies were a little more playing the hits.
Yeah.
But
what I'm saying is that if it's the main character, then it's more likely to track with the storyline. But if it's a different character, you know, a character that isn't the guiding main thrust character of the story, they play around a lot with that.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
And I could see them
even with main characters, because like even people who, you know, once you saw Thanos, then it was like, oh, okay, so now we're gonna have to see death at some point because that's why he snaps. Yeah. That's why he wants the gauntlet. No, like that didn't play into it at all. Even when we got the goddess of death in Thor, you know, like you're like, oh, that's how they're gonna play it. No, it's not how they're gonna do this at all. Right. He's got his own thing.
That's true. Yeah. So I mean, listen, we here are a pro Gugu and Bathu Raw podcast.
Yes.
If she gets to continue to persist in whatever form, we are here for it. I just hope that she's not just here for this one show.
If she's Kang, if she's a version of Kang, right? Like an iteration, the foil of having male Loki, female Loki, and male Kang, female Kang. I should write. That's what I should do.
So here's the thing. It's a very Reed Richards thing, but like people have been hoping to see Kang in this series. People have been speculating and talking about it. They've been zooming in on timekeepers and being like, "That's a black man. He should be Kang." You know, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is the level of fan crybabiness if Ravonna is revealed to be Kang?
12. Have you met Twitter? Like, yeah, they're going to be in an uproar.
You know what's funny is I was gonna say if she's not Kang, then I think it would be a 12. But I think we're both right. I just think they're going to complain no matter. I think we're not going to get Jonathan Majors.
I think people are expecting Jonathan Majors, and I think they're expecting her to like huddle up to Jonathan Majors, kiss him on the lips, and be like, "Yes, our plan came to fruition, and now we're going to time boning." You know,
right.
Now we're going to bone, or maybe we'll bone yesterday because we are the master of time.
Her clothes just fall off because fanboys just decided Disney Plus is doing that now. Yeah. Yeah, that's just not how that's going to work. But I could see this series ending with a reference to Kang.
Yeah. I think that's the most likely outcome.
Yeah.
Less than Jonathan Majors. Less than Jonathan Majors actually showing up, is more of just the word Kang being uttered.
Just sort of like your Justice League, Dark Side is coming, kind of thing at the end. Where you get reference to Kang. I could see that.
Yeah.
and especially because he's not like a big known villain like
Right.
a Dark Side or like a Thanos or somebody like, he we have to kind of get to appreciate the character for us to feel like an appearance really means something.
Well,
I
even
mean,
like
listen,
like at the end of Avengers,
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
yeah, most people
Thanos.
didn't know
Most
who
people
Thanos
didn't know who
was.
Thanos was, but they did show Thanos,
Right,
so that
exactly.
was different.
I don't right. I
Like,
don't feel like they're gonna show him, and that's why the name would be more like important than just like a and I
mm,
guess I don't know. It would feel more like the foreboding if you just got the name because we already, and then on top of that, because you mentioned that we already got kind of like the quick villain reveal thing, and then so I mean, why do it again? Why not
right.
just
So,
create the foreboding
and also because, like, in Avengers, we didn't know the Thanos reveal was coming,
Mhm.
Right.
right? So it made sense to show him but not name him.
Right.
Right.
Whereas now we know that Kang is
Expecting Kang.
we know that Kang is coming, so it makes more sense rather than to show him to name check him.
Right.
Mhm.
And it would be kind of cool. It would definitely be a cool twist and subversion of our expectations to have Ravonna be Kang,
Mhm.
Yeah.
a different,
Exactly.
a variant Kang,
Right.
you know,
And I
because
mean, and on top of that, Kang
Mhm.
has like multiple different incarnations anyway in the
Right.
comic.
Yeah.
So, that would be like if she was like one of his various personas, that would play right into it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then going back to something that we talked about before, it's like Kang is also gender fluid. Oh.
Exactly. Yeah, like if the
My
last
goodness,
line is
goodness.
like, everything seems to be tied up in a neat little bow, and then Ravonna, aways to her chambers, and then just says something about conquering. Like, oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, we're on this track. What else? Let's see.
There was
Was
something we
like
brought
what?
up in the chat today that when Sylvie's talking to Loki about how enchanting works, and she
Mhm.
touches him and it doesn't work. What if it did? Is it possible that it did? Is it possible that that's our Deus Ex Machina next week? Is that like, don't worry, none of this is actually happening. You're actually living in my memory, or Loki has turned it around and is, and is enchanting her. Is that possible? Because it doesn't really seem like they've got a way out.
So I would say I would answer your question with a question, which is to what end? Because
I mean, to what end, plot wise, and also to fan satisfaction.
no,
Like,
I mean I meant to what end. I meant to what end in terms of what the expectations of the character were.
yeah,
I think that right now the scenario is that the tempad doesn't work.
Mhm.
mhm.
If the goal was to get him to turn over the tempad, the fact that the tempad doesn't work is, kind of undercuts that.
That's
If
true.
if the goal is to just get Loki to spill his guts and reveal information, then it is working. But what does she need? Does she need anything from Loki
All right.
from that perspective? Whereas in the inverse, and I know that some people are suggesting the inverse, that if I personally don't ascribe to this theory, but if Loki were enchanting the Enchantress, he has more to gain from getting information out of her
Sure.
than vice versa.
Yeah,
And
I'm open to either one of these
yeah.
possibilities.
Now, personally, I think it's most likely that it will be a Deus Ex Machina, where it's like we've opened up the universe. There's a male Loki. There's a female Loki, Sylvie. We may get like an older Loki, then we'll get a younger Loki, or a younger Loki and an older Loki. Like I think that the way that this game is played in terms of fan service, the more Lokis the merrier. So I could totally see us getting a kid Loki that rescues both of them and is like, you know, I gotta save both of you adults, you know,
Yep.
and then we go through the backstory of the kid Loki and how the kid Loki is like, we don't know whether the kid Loki becomes our male Loki or the kid Loki becomes our female Loki or the kid Loki becomes both Lokis. Like it's an open question, and then it's something to think about in the next episode.
Well, let's put on our meta hats for a second. If there's 3 episodes left of this series, and we kind of all agree that the next episode is going to be about what the TVA has been doing during the events of episode 3.
Sure. Yeah.
Then there probably isn't room to introduce a kid Loki, because probably the end of episode 4 is going to be whatever the hell happens to get them out of that situation.
Fair. That's
right.
Fair. I mean, so you're thinking that the TVA rescues the Lokis.
Maybe Mobius does. Maybe Mobius goes, by the end of episode 4, Mobius goes rogue. Or maybe it's Jessica Hyde who goes rogue, whatever.
Jessica Hyde wants to go home. She wants to go back to Earth and live out her margarita life.
Right.
As someone who's been drinking margaritas for the last hour, I understand.
So I think the chances of a third Loki playing a major part in this, I think, are slim, personally.
Sadly.
See, I think that there's a way to have at least 2 more Lokis, but maybe not have them be introduced right away.
Kid Loki, animated pig Loki, a black Loki.
Oh yeah,
better be a black Loki.
Listen, Loki has to happen. I don't know.
His name is Loki.
Listen, Loki is a former pro wrestler.
But to say like
from Brooklyn.
Loki is the Australian Loki. Like that's not the same.
Loki.
Oh yeah, Loki. No, Loki is British. He's Loki.
Loki. No, Black Loki's got like errant apostrophes in his name.
That's good point.
He added afterwards. He wasn't born with them.
There's an accent. It's Loki. But racial draft. We don't forget. This is what we do. So
that's right.
Stay tuned. We might do Loki, right, Randy?
We might.
I'm glad that Lamentis occurs after Ragnarok. In the timeline, because Loki just instinctively 2012 Loki should be like, Heimdall, get me out of here.
Ooh, good point.
Yeah.
So just to bring we have been joined by our boy Stukes.
Oh shit.
You just missed the fact that we introduced the concept of Loki. Black Loki. So what are your thoughts on Loki?
Loki. It sounds like oh shit, y'all both.
Chris Tucker is Loki. I just decided.
So Chris Tucker as Loki. Whoa.
That's it.
Are you gonna have to draw that up, Carlos?
He's just doing his Fifth Element.
Black Loki. The Fifth Element. Oh. Come here.
Loki, my man.
All right, Black Loki. I feel that all the variants, and it's I just, now that y'all bring it to me, like right into my lap, I feel that's just racist name of Black Loki. I said it.
Yeah, it's racist that there isn't a black Norse god of mischief.
Black Norse god. Why is Heimdall there and Loki ain't?
Right.
Exactly. I feel that.
I said it.
I just end that question with why is Heimdall there? But that's cool.
But why he gotta be black with hazel eyes? Only know 7 people in the world with hazel eyes as dark skin, as black as the ace of spades.
I just feel like it's a very interesting point at which to bring up the fact that Heimdall is essentially a peeping Tom, and he's the only black as Guardian that we see. So he's like an Uncle Peeping Tom.
Yes, he is the Peeping Tom ass guardian. Yes.
Oh shit! I heard the drum in the background.
All right, man. All right, so you're late to the show, so give us your big theories.
Okay, first of all, I would like to say for all the naysayers out there, episode 3 was a phenomenal episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Agreed.
And my theory is that she definitely the female Loki,
Sylvie, yeah, Sylvie.
definitely worked for the TVA.
Works or worked?
Worked.
Past tense,
Definitely
yes.
did.
Yes,
And
we talked about this.
And
Like,
realized
so she had her memories wiped. And then,
like old girl in the beginning.
Mhm.
And I feel that she realized what they're about. The biggest thing that nobody's talking about when she said, "What are you talking about? They're all our variants, all of them."
No, we talked about it for the last hour. But.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why we're the smart ones. But but like nobody said that. Nobody's bringing that up. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, holy shit.
No, so here's the interesting thing. Sorry to try to bring you up to speed. Is that like when she was asking Loki about his life, when I watched it the first time, I thought she was asking it because her life was different. But then I realized in the second watch, she was asking it because she didn't remember his life was like before. And that's what made me think, oh, she was in the TVA. Like she's trying to fill in the blanks of what her life was before she was in the TVA.
And also I believe that her kinship is not like is supposed to happen. It's natural because they are literally the same person, just different body. So I think that they're drawn to each other.
So wait. sorry. Like we talked about this earlier. Are the Lokis gonna fuck?
No.
You are the only one talking about that. Bring that up.
Oh, okay, right. To bring like the Infinity Saga, right? You know how they said the stones were meant to be together. The stones like attract each other. I think that each variant they feel it like okay, perfect example, right? They feel it, but they don't know it. They don't realize it.
Okay.
And that's why I think they want every variant to be apart. Because it's like black people. It's like black people. If there's numbers,
many of us
they're gonna lose.
Yeah.
You feel me? And I'm thinking like it seems like they are scared what happens if more than 2 Lokis come together.
I am very much appreciating the melanin in this answer. Yes, continue.
and I feel that the TVA is you notice that there was all the variants, all this shit that's happening, purge the timeline. They dropped everything when they heard 2 Lokis was together. Every single thing. It doesn't matter what it was.
I mean, to be fair, Sylvie did bomb the timeline.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Loki, our Loki, Prime Loki, went with her, and that scared the shit out of everybody.
Yes, that is. I mean, but again, she bombed the timeline. Like, so one of the things that we predicted for the next episode is that the next episode is going to be primarily TVA focused. Mobius, maybe we'll learn a little bit more about how TVA operates, because we need to figure out like what the effects of this timeline bombing is.
And she did like 40 time bombs.
It was a lot. I don't know if it was 40, but it was a lot.
It was a lot because
it was more than I expected. Yeah.
The reason why I say it's 40 because I actually counted the.
Oh, seriously?
Don't mind me. I counted like each one that came down the screen when the timelines was going each way, and I was like I'm lost count at 40 because they cut off and they went back and they cut off and went back.
Oh, seriously? Okay, so there are over 40 possibilities of divergences based on this bombing.
I think
And
another important point that I don't know that we've mentioned is the TVA definitely thinks our Loki had something to do with this.
Yes.
definitely.
Like
Mhm.
it's not like, oh, he ran off to chase after Sylvie. They're
No.
like,
No, they
he
think
took
that
out
he was
all of these people
They
in
think
the
he was an
Rox cart.
like he was at the very least an accomplice,
Right.
if not,
A
well, they know he
mastermind.
wasn't. They know that he didn't do the bombing because he,
Right.
Mobius is right there.
right. But they may think that he signed up to join up with, with Sylvie, who they still think is a Loki variant.
And I mean
Notice
that's what they have, like his typecast kind of
Mhm.
his role is like he's a maker of mischief and chaos and all this other stuff.
I-
So
And
I
Hunter
have-
B whatever B20
B15.
B15 is like doesn't remember that
Mhm.
Sylvie is the one who enchanted her. She's
Right.
like, I knocked out, Loki did it.
Exactly.
So yeah, so it's
So-
gonna be hostile.
Yeah,
My
and that's
big-
all the more reason that I think that the next episode is going to be heavily TVA focused, right?
Mhm.
Because
feel that, yeah.
you're going to have Mobius thinking, I did see Loki jump into the portal, but I mean, he jumped through the door, but I want to believe in him.
And you're gonna have everyone else being like, we told you if,
Mhm.
if things went astray this time, whatever.
right,
Hand in your badge and your gun.
and then maybe Ravonna, depending on when she makes her turn, is either going to back him up or be like, yeah, they were totally working together, even though she knows differently.
Right.
Because you got to think, right? The only person that trusts Loki is Mobius.
Right.
Right.
The only one is not even close. Everybody's like, yo, you're making a mistake. What are you doing? And I think that my big theory in this show is that he's trying to save by destroying.
Interesting. Okay.
From the inside out, because he realized that there's corruption, like there's like, oh, we're living under a veil, a false veil.
Yeah.
Like, why is there so many timelines? But this is the sacred one?
Well,
what?
again, the big reveal from this week is that the TVA agents are all variants that don't know that they're variants.
Right.
Right. So in a way, they're all kind of slaves to the timekeepers. The timekeepers.
Exactly. Yo.
Like they're not choosing to serve the timeline. They're being brainwashed into serving the timeline.
Oh,
so
Stukes, our theory this week too is also that Ravonna is Kang.
Ravonna? Ooh, shit, really? Ooh.
Yes. Not Ravonna, Kang's right? Girlfriend.
That's her name, the judge lady?
Ravonna Renslayer, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Ravonna, I think that she allowed Mobius to remember something. Because of their closeness. You know what I mean?
You see, I think that I do think that she's using him. I don't know if it's because she was the one who recruited him in the first place when he was a variant. And maybe she has like a certain amount of affinity for him. But I think that from a subversion standpoint, so many people have been saying, oh, this is Kang's girlfriend, that like for her to actually be a variant of Kang would blow people's minds.
I think that will like blow people's mind, like South Park when Kenny lived.
The end.
Exactly. I think that will like literally like like Austin Powers, remember the fembots when he was like, yeah.
It's a man.
But like that's crazy, yo. What?
Thank you.
I would love it. I really would.
Yeah.
That's what and then I mean, listen, timelines, variants, multiverses, everything is like on the table because everybody has been waiting out, trying to like look at all these images and figure out who looks like Jonathan Majors, and it's like, you can't trust that. Kang can look like whoever.
Because Kang is a descendant of Reed Richards, right?
Yeah,
Maybe not in the MCU.
maybe not in the MCU. Because in the comics, we don't know. Like, he may be a descendant of Reed, he may be a descendant of Doom. Like, it's you know,
That's a lot of the MCU tends to tend to prune the variants and keep one clean timeline
of the MCU.
Right.
MCU.
And here's the thing. I'm gonna say one thing just to get it on the record, and then you can go on. There in the comics, Iron Lad is a progenitor of Kang. But we have an Iron Heart. What if Riri Williams is a progenitor of Kang?
Then I would be all the more happy because it would make so many fanboys so angry.
That's a fact, y'all. Fact.
Yeah. My Kang the Conqueror is a white man named Kang.
Really? Like, no. We were Kangs. That's
exactly.
We
were Kangs.
What if they they switch it up slightly, right? And say Kang is the futurist that Tony Stark is, a descendant of Tony Stark.
Like I said,
I mean, that would be funny
descendant of Riri Williams, though.
Because he's gonna be black, right? Black. I mean,
as long as he has like a really prestigious lineage that will make all of the white fanboys like question how did a Negro come from that. That is my happy place. I am very much for that.
Yes,
because it also explains the whole like the event Endgame had to happen, right? In order for Kang to happen. So if you were extrapolating that, at the end of Endgame, Tony Stark dies, opens up a little bit of a power vacuum. Riri Williams steps into that power vacuum, becomes the Iron Heart, and down the line, as the new Iron Stark futurist person in the timeline, that sets the stage for 100, 200, however many years down the line. Riri is the progenitor of Kang, and that Endgame has to happen in order for everything else to happen, and therefore the TVA has to preserve that everything in the MCU up to that point, including Steve Rogers going away and sexing it up with Peggy.
Sirs, there's one quote that is always overlooked in Endgame.
Okay.
One quote.
Time pushes back.
Yes. He said, "You'll see. Time messes back. You'll see." And why is the Mobius strip? Like there's not.
Yeah, he mentions the Mobius strip. Yes, he does.
I said this. I said like everything in the MCU doesn't. They don't say it by accident.
Nope.
And I'm like, why is he so panicked? Why did he say that? I'm like, in my head, in back of my head, why did he say that? Oh shit, they about to fuck up Thanos. It just was like a fleeting thought.
Right.
And then I'm like, hold on a fucking second. Like when I first seen Infinity War, I was like, what happened in 2 years? And nobody's asking this question. Like, what happened in 2 years? What the fuck happened in 2 years? Like, god damn, nobody's answering this shit. And then when he said that, I'm like, yo, like, you motherfucker. Like, yo, I need this is bullshit. Because now we're gonna be waiting 8 years for a fucking answer.
I need Cedric the Entertainer, DL Hughley, and Steve Harvey to be the Kangs
of comedy.
The Kangs of conquering. Steve Harvey comes out like in full Kangs.
Okay.
Like, God damn it, the Kangs.
Now you have to illustrate that. The Kangs of Conquering. We will put that on all of our platforms.
I will pay you.
Yeah.
See now, because now that it makes me think of it, I have to draft. I have to make sure I have to draft T'Challa this season because he has to be the Kang of Wakanda. I have to draft Namor because he has to be the Kang of Atlantis. we're gonna make it work. We're gonna make it work.
All right.
That's
I
your
love
theme.
it.
The
I love
Kangs.
it.
I love it.
We was Kangs.
You know, it's one more question.
Sure.
So, you know how in Endgame, Tony Stark was as surprised as all of us were that he figured out time travel, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if they gave him some type of information? What if
You mean the
they
TVA?
like, yeah, okay, listen to this, right? You know how like he was like, okay, what's his name? What's the AI name? Friday, right? Friday?
Yeah, Friday
Okay,
before.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, Friday. Figured it out. I can understand if it takes a while. Boom, right there. What if they manipulated Friday?
See, I'm
Right?
thinking more along the lines of that they're not necessarily intervening, but they just know that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because it's like like they're not intervening, right? But more like Mobius. Mobius is actually like, you know, just like there you
Yeah.
go, right
Well,
there.
that's not, again, I
Nudging
mean,
him. Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
again, it's the whole like divine timeline thing, or the whole like sacred timeline, that it's
Mhm.
like there's a timeline where Tony Stark was like, oh, I'm just gonna go to bed and fuck Pepper, and
Bang out,
go
bang
about
it,
my
bang it
business
out.
or whatever, and
Like,
then there's another timeline where he's just like, oh shit, time travel, and they're like, that's the one.
so
Right.
do you think that I think one Mike, I think you asked this actually.
Mhm.
When Doctor Strange saw them 14 million futures, you think
There's only one.
you think it was planted?
I don't think
The
it was
one?
planted. I just think it
That
was
would-
that. I just think that one of the four. Because the funny thing is that there are probably many more than the 14 million futures, right?
Sure.
But the one is the one that the TVA is trying to preserve.
I mean, to be fair, like he only had like a couple of seconds to look at all those.
Like literally, but how long
I
was he
don't
doing
think it's
it?
fair to quite hold him up to the standard of being like you find all of the futures where you win. Like you kind of gotta sift through all of the other millions.
Wouldn't it be
So
hilarious if there was like some other future that they won like expeditiously, and
That's what I'm saying.
it didn't involve like 5 years of
Killing some
losing?
people.
Like they could have just like they could have actually just won, but he just didn't have enough time to go
Yeah,
through.
Right,
where is the
you could've
future where
just-
he makes Star-Lord go away so that
Yeah.
it just murk Thanos?
You could have just bought me a couple of more seconds so I could see the right timeline. But okay, sure, Jan. Like, let's go ahead and make everybody die and wait for like 5 years.
Or
Like,
how
people
about like
forget.
I'm about to create duplicates of myself, but only one of them is going to look into the future. I
I feel
couldn't
that-
possibly leave one of my duplicates to look at all of the possibilities.
Is Los, I feel that will be revisited at one point or another.
Oh, you
What you
think? You
just
think
said,
they're
what you
gonna
just
go
said.
back to the?
That will be revisited. Not as a whole.
You mean in Doctor
expose.
Strange too?
Yes, not an expose, but just like when Doctor Strange looked into the futures, you think he didn't? He think he did that by accident? You know what I mean? Like something like that. When Stephen Strange came, like had vision. Do you think we didn't see that?
Yeah,
Like,
I could see that. I could
I could see
actually
that.
see in
That
the
would be
multiverse of madness some entity being like, when you were looking into those 14 million possibilities, we were right here,
yeah.
like waiting for you to choose the wrong one, so that we could.
Are we going to see? What's his face? The gold 3-head guy.
The Living Tribunal, I think.
Yes. Thank you.
I
Sorry.
don't think we're gonna get the Living Tribunal because he's not particularly magic based. But maybe,
Because
I still have to figure out. I still have to figure out how that's gonna like happen in one movie.
That's gonna be a lot.
It's a big movie.
It's gonna be a lot.
A long movie.
It's good because, would you mind being in 3 hours?
I mean,
wouldn't mind being like 3 hours and a half. I want a lot. Give me the stuff.
Yeah, I just
Because
need like a
remember-
channel, an MCU channel that I can just turn on and be like, oh, cool.
Remember,
why
it's
couldn't they
the-
have saved the 3.5-hour movie for premiere access so that I could buy it and then be able to go to the bathroom whenever I felt like it, as opposed to, heading back to the theaters.
The
You
Irishman
think
style.
you think they're gonna follow that formula?
No,
it's a
I
good
think
formula for me.
I think we're only gonna get Black Widow on Premier Access, and then everything else is gonna require us to be in a theater.
theaters.
Yeah, I think so too. There's
'Cause,
just too much money there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I will happily wade through the pandemic zombie hordes to go ahead and see Doctor Strange go through the multiverse and things get mad. I'm fine with it.
Just remember, Spider-Man is leading directly into Mom. You know?
Don't call it Mom. That feels weird.
Spider-Man does not lead directly into Mom.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. My mom does not want No Way Home. But final thoughts about this episode?
It was phenomenal. It was great. That last action sequence will be so underappreciated, I think.
No, here's the thing. We should pull back and just say in general that the fight choreography specifically for Sylvie was on point.
Yeah.
It was reminiscent of the first time we see Natasha Romanoff, Iron Man 2.
I was gonna say, like, when we saw her in Civil War in Captain America,
yeah,
like that level of brutality in her fighting, like it felt like, you know, the level up from Iron Man 2 to Captain America 3, because some of them, like when she was just disintegrating people in the TV,
that was crazy.
Like I was like, okay, all right. You know, to the point where when Loki had to step his game up, I was like, you better can't let Sylvia show you up, because her hand-to-hand skills are ridiculous.
But I say 8.5 out of 10.
Okay. I mean, I'm not going to do star ratings because I want to like keep it open. Quick question. We talked about this in the chat. Miss Minutes.
Yeah.
Shady, not shady?
Oh, she's a shady bitch.
I mean, the concept of Miss Minutes is shady. The idea that Miss Minutes is somehow sentient is bizarre to me. Like, I don't even know what to do with that information. It's like, what kind of creature are you? Are you basically are you like an AI? Are you a living being? Or, you know, like, I don't know what to do with Miss Minutes. Like, I don't understand how this works.
I would not be surprised if we get a villain speech from Miss Minutes.
That would be amazing.
Miss Minutes automatically makes me suspicious just because, like, what
she's
is
Southern.
The point? Well, I mean that too. but what is the point of even having her be sentient? Like,
I think she's doing the wipes.
She could be.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there was something insidious about the character that, like, they have to like make her be cute so that
listen, it totally makes sense that she would be in charge of wiping the variants and reestablishing their TVA personas, right? And
I mean, one of the themes of this series has kind of been the banality of evil. And so for Miss Minutes to be the one that's wiping minds would be, you know, it's literally a cartoon with a Southern accent, you know, like, and it's doing this insidious, nefarious thing that would play to the theme.
The last words that you hear as it get wiped away from reality. Y'all come back now, you hear?
For all time, always.
For all time.
Just that whole fucking quote, Randy, just what you said right there. That whole quote, y'all come back now, you hear? Like, that's like almost guaranteeing, like, yo, you'll be back.
I mean, that's what it, like, it kind of makes me think of that, just because it's so creepy, like, to even think of, like, your decisions are like being edited. Your decisions are being like approved and disapproved, and not just approved or disapproved, but like actively acted upon. And that's why I kind of feel like, I'm not sure if it's going to be something relevant or whatever, but I feel like there might actually be a part of the Time Variance Authority that could potentially be actively doing things to try to influence events as well. But
And like I said in our chat, when they erase pieces of your memory, you literally miss
minutes.
That shit had me like,
yeah.
You saw the gift. I was like,
yeah, the Weebay.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, it did make me think of that too, because it's like you lose time and all this other stuff. So it's like it's very. I mean, I get the intervention. I understand that, but it makes me feel as though, again, we're not getting all the information. Like little by little, we're kind of getting the drip of how they operate. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did have people like intervening and stuff like that, trying to make sure that this sacred timeline. You can't just get rid of things. You have to kind of be proactive in certain situations as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were more interventionist than we are first led to believe.
Mm-hmm. I would love a montage of all of the times that they've influenced the timeline. Like I would love it to be like, they come in the moments between seconds, kind of Legion style, and they whisper in Star-Lord's ear, like, why don't you ask where Gamora is? Hey, where's Gamora? Like, where is Gamora?
And Drax like, hey, that's why.
Man, and then we have to kind of assume that Agatha is like, it was Agatha all along, but she's working on behalf of the authority.
Right.
It's like, Killmonger, is this their king?
Oh shit. You know what? I think that shit will happen. I think it will happen. It's like tiny little montages. Like Black Panther, how did he find his position? How did he find where he was in LA? Like he just knew it all of a sudden. You know what I mean?
If
like,
they did that, if they did like one great big hand wave to all of the little plot holes that have occurred in the MCU, that would be kind of amazing.
But not like explaining anything. Like 3 seconds, like each one. Like holy shit, that was them, and they'd be like, that was them too. Yo.
Well, just to be clear, I am more along the lines of they are not intervening in the timeline, but they're just sort of picking and choosing which timelines matter. So it would be more fun if it showed like a montage of things going slightly differently, and they were like, nope, that's not the right way.
Okay, question, right? So they said, didn't they say that there was like a limited amount of time bombs, like, and she's taking all of them?
No, she was just taking them from the teams.
Okay,
like, we don't know how many time bombs there are. Yeah.
Okay, because I was like thinking like, yo, what was the 14 million? They had to reset the timeline over and over and over and over and over.
There's gotta be like millions and millions of timelines. Okay. I mean, millions and millions of time bombs. That's another reason that I think the next episode is going to be from the TVA perspective, so they can see what the time bombs do.
Right.
But again, we still don't know what happens when you set them off in like a timeline that's going as planned.
Yeah, right. Was it just like an area or just like the entire timeline?
Yeah. This is all a conversation we had earlier.
Yeah. So real quick, so where I'm at right now is that I think that pre-redlining, before the rogue timeline has turned into a full-blown universe, it's localized. You're still wiping out everything that lives, but you're wiping it out only in that place that the variation has happened. But once it gets to the red line place, in order to wipe it out, you'd have to wipe out the entire universe, and that might be too much for their time bomb or reset bomb capability, So that's why it's so important that they do it before it redlines.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's my theory that I'm working with right now. They're still eradicating people, but they're only eradicating people in that small sort of localized place,
Because once it reaches that red line, they've created an alternate universe.
Yeah.
Not just a branch timeline, but a whole other universe.
Yeah, and then that's past the point of no return.
Right.
That's
and,
how.
and no, I was about to say in that case, it kind of makes me think like certain variants would be more like drastically variant than others. And so like maybe some would be like I guess certain events would kind of approach the red line faster than others.
Interesting.
Well, I think that like they have that arbitrary, like they're 5 units away from a red line.
Yeah.
They don't tell you exactly what a unit is.
Yes.
Yeah. So so there probably are events that are like, if you came in to Endgame, which actually Endgame would count as an apocalypse, wouldn't it? It was a pretty big event.
No, but I think that in order for an apocalypse to be an apocalypse, there has to be no survivors.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Okay.
So if you came into Endgame and then like Tony Stark's about to be like, and I am Iron Man, but you're like, oh no, I took your glove. Like, like that would be 1 unit away from a red line, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You want to dance? Well, do your thing, little lady.
that is a unexpected unexpected appearances on these are variants and
Get out of here, Fire Per John. Get out of here.
I feel like that's the note that we got to leave it on. We got to leave it on Stukes' kids.
Goddamn right.
Stukes' kids, the variants. Randy, final thoughts about what you expect to see in week 4?
I believe that they are going to be the old geezers rescued from certain doom by Kid Loki.
All right. Carlos, what do you expect to see in week 4?
I think week 4 is 40 minutes devoted to whatever the TVA has been doing during the events since Loki left, and ending with saving Loki and Sylvie from the ends of the events of episode 3.
I agree with you. Stukes, what do you expect to see in this next episode, week 4?
A full explanation on the creation of the TVA.
Wow. The whole kit and caboodle.
And it starts. The episode starts with Loki and Sylvie being saved, and then Sylvie asks, "Who made the TVA?" And then boom.
Okay. Well, I like I said, I think that it's going to be mostly bringing us up to speed of everything that happened with Mobius and the rest of the TVA since Loki jumped in the portal. I think that we're going to maybe get a little teaser on the fact that that Sylvie was a TVA agent at one point.
How many episodes is it supposed to be?
6.
6. We're halfway through.
That's it? Really?
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be like the biggest of big reveals next week. But I do think that at the end of the episode, we will get another Loki. Not exactly sure how. But
what's down the pipeline? What's next? Black Widow.
Black Widow in July.
No.
Shang-Chi in September.
Eternals.
What if it's supposed to be, I believe, in August.
What if takes on a lot more meaning now? Because I had like once kind of joked or maybe just posited like, what if the what if episodes are all other universes,
timelines, right?
Without knowing that there was no multiverse in the MCU. But now if the end of Loki is that the multiverse has been unleashed, what if is the multiverse?
Yeah,
like us physically watching what happened and him into like everybody's interfering in the timeline, and then we see that come together. Because is that going to be one anthology or multiple episodes?
I think it's going to be an anthology. Like each episode is self-contained.
Okay.
I wonder if the episodes that are airing were moments on the timeline that got bombed.
Ooh.
We might have to go back and look.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah,
I'm in.
we will.
Was it Stukes? You looked. Is there a Wakanda moment?
Actually, yeah.
Oh,
We might be.
Shit.
That might
There's
be what we
England,
see. That would
there's
be
England,
awesome.
There's one in England, one in Wakanda, one in Vormir,
Yeah.
one in there's one in New York. Oh shit. You motherfucker, I'm in.
That would be dope.
all right. So that's where we're gonna have to leave it, people.
Hell yeah, let's leave that shit.
Come on back next week as we go through and we speculate, on whether we were right about episode 4, whether the what if episodes are the consequences of the timeline bombing, which, Carlos has made really strong arguments.
God damn it, Carlos. I love you.
And we have to run away from the TVA because they're probably showing up right now to eradicate us. So until next time, say goodbye to your variants.
The Negro verse. God damn.
Peace.